Hello, if you've been here before, welcome back. If not, hi, my name is David. I make videos talking about media that I want to talk about. This is my December reading wrap-up, the review of the books that I read in the month of December. I am filming this on the first day of January, but that's fine. I am joined today by Queeble from last month and his older brother, I guess, Bunger, which my boyfriend gave me Bunger for my birthday, oh my god, 2 years ago? A year ago? I forget exactly. And then Queeble for my last birthday. And so they will be joining me as I cover the, oh god, I lost count. 10 to 11 books, I think, that I read this month. And just like last time, I will be doing half of the books in the month filmed first, and then I'll come back to the future, which is now, to talk about the rest of the books. So let's head over to Past David. Hello, it's David from the past. The first book that I finished this month was Death on the Caldera by Emily Paxman. This is a 4 out of 5 for me. It was pretty good. It's about these three siblings in this fantasy world that go onto this train heading back to their country, and the train derails, and then murders happen, and they're trying to solve the murders. And so I first heard about this in terms of it being a mystery novel. And I wanted to consume more mystery novels because I haven't read that many. I thought it was a play on Murder on the Orient Express, and I expected some things like that. But it turns out it's less of a mystery, more of like a fantasy novel in general. And I thought that the mystery itself was not that exciting. But the fantasy stuff around it, the world building, and the characters were pretty fun as well. The three siblings are the best of the characters, which is important for these types of mystery novels. The characters have to be really interesting. The three siblings are amazing. I thought that the main characters, Davina, the sister of the three siblings, I thought her motivation was very interesting. I haven't seen motivation like that. She wants to be more useful, but her family is sort of pushing her out because she's a woman, so she can't do anything because she's a woman, and she's like, I want to do more, I want to be able to do more. She wants to go get an education, etc. I haven't seen that motivation that much in different stories, and so I was really happy to see that and her growth within that. But the rest of the side characters, fine. I think that the 7-year-old child, fun. I liked her, but everyone else is just not amazing. And it's also juggling a lot of different aspects within the story, and it sort of distracting. Because it's trying to focus on this mystery, but then it's also dealing with the politics between the two kingdoms, and then there's also witches, and there's a witch country, and there's witches who are evil and witches who are not so evil, and there's like cultural taboos against witches, and it's a lot of different things in one. And it's not bad, it's just there's a lot happening that you kind of get distracted in terms of what is going to happen in the story. So it's not that distracting. It's fine. But yeah, this was a pretty good story. I wanted to finish this quickly, but it took a bit. The language was really interesting as well. I liked the writing of it. It's a good story. I didn't connect with it well, but it's really well written. The next book that I read in the month was Local Heavens by K.M. Fajardo. And oh my god, this was amazing. It's a 5 out of 5 for me. It's a retelling of The Great Gatsby set in a cyberpunk dystopia sci-fi futuristic world. It's set in 2077, right? And 75. And it is an amazing retelling. I've read a handful of other retellings, and they tend to stick to the structure of the original story, but then they add new things to it around it, so it tends to be maybe like 60 to 70% retelling, and then the rest of that new stuff. In this story, it's like it is almost exactly The Great Gatsby, with like minute details that really go a long way. to adapt this story. And in a lot of retellings I've seen is maybe retelling a story and adapting it to the genre. But this is adapting the genre to the story. And I feel like that was a very, very smart way to write this story. I had to read Great Gatsby 2 times in high school, but it's been a long time since then. And so there are some things that I remember, some things that I didn't. But there were some like minute details within the text itself that I was like, Great Gatsby. I remember that exactly. I remember that how interesting that was and stuff like that. And I was just so overjoyed feeling the passion for the original story. And that's what I absolutely adored about this, because I could feel the passion within the writing that the author had for the original source material, and also wanting to improve. What's the term? Improve on it. Yeah, I said that right the first time. She wanted to make it better, and she did. Specifically because it was marketed to me as a queer retelling with a love square between, I mean, all the characters are the same. So it's Nick, Nick, Jordan, Jordan, Daisy, Daisy, Gatsby, Gatsby, Nick. And it's so good because it handles these different relationships all with the love and care that they need. And I forgot that this was a tragedy. So when it became a tragedy, it was so sad. It was so good. I also really like that it expands upon Nick's character, because from what I remember in Great Gatsby, Nick Carraway is a very passive character. He doesn't really do anything. He's just observing things. But here, there's a lot of decisions that he makes, and he's a very active character, and I very much enjoyed that. I really, really wanted to just live in this world with them. It's a shitty world. It's a shitty world, but I wanted to live with these characters in this world. And I wanted to take my time with this story, but I needed to move on and read other books. So, but this was just an amazing read. Probably the best book I read this month, I swear to God. Let me just show you the cover. Like, it's beautiful. It's kind of shiny. And KM Fajardo, you have my heart. Thank you so much. I forgot to say, Local Heavens and the next few books, and then a book that I'm reading in the next clip of me in the future, are books that I had pre-ordered because they were new releases, and I was really excited to get to them, and I finally got my hands on them, and I wanted to read them before the end of the year, specifically because I pre-ordered them. So Local Heavens, I forget exactly when it came out. It was like mid-September, I believe, or like late August, I think. Then this next book I also pre-ordered and wanted to finish before the end of the year, and that is The Everlasting by Alix E. Harrow. A lot of people have talked about this book. This book came out specifically, I pre-ordered it on my birthday, and it's also stuff messed up with like shipping and payment. You're not gonna fall. Do not fall. Some stuff got messed up with the shipping and payment, so I just ended up buying it. It didn't even charge me the pre-order. I just ended up buying it later in physical, but whatever. It came out on my birthday, so it's a birthday present for me. Thank you so much, Alix E. Harrow. I have read Alix E. Harrow's 100 years, 10,000 Doors of January. Let me see if I can pull it up. Really beautiful story. And then I also read her short story, The Six Deaths of a Saint, in the Best American Science Fiction and Fantasy of 2023 volume, edited by R.F. Kuang. Six Deaths of a Saint is the like prototype, I guess, of The Everlasting. So when I read that story and I loved it, I wanted to get this book when I heard about it. I will say this book is a victim of my high expectations, but it did not. It does suffer in terms of not reaching my high expectations. However, I am able to separate that from my actual critiques and enjoyment for this book, because it is a 4.5 out of 5 for me. It has some amazing prose. Alix E. Harrow is an amazing prose writer. The way she writes is just amazing. I especially loved whenever it dipped into like the historical book stories. Right. So this story is about Owen, who is a historian for this fictional country. Let me show you the map. Right. And oh, let me show you the inside of. That's so beautiful. So Owen is a historian for this fictional country, and he's hired by the country's ruler to write a historical novel about this folklore woman knight named Una Everlasting, the Everlasting, and she wants Owen, the leader, wants Owen to write this story to be able to empower people in the war effort and give herself power. And what ends up happening is Owen goes on a time traveling journey with Una, trying to get out of this cycle of violence and rewriting history that the antagonist is putting them through. And it is amazing plot that handles the time travel very well. Like sometimes these types of stories, revolving stories of like repeating stuff, time travel tends to get a little confusing, but I think that I think Alix and Harrow managed to handle it very well and not confusing. And with specifically delineated frames of like when this is happening here and there, stuff like that. And I was not lost at all. And my only like issues with this is that there are some moments of humor earlier on that felt out of place for me. There's some sarcastic, dry humor that works, but then there's actual just trying to be funny things that I felt were a little off, especially with the tone of irreverence that this book is going for. That also clashed with some pretty graphic sex scenes that I also like. It didn't really meld with this type of story. For example, Local Heavens has 2 sex scenes, but it's written in terms of not actually like in the Everlasting. It's like very explicit as to what's going in where and da da da. But in Local Heavens, the sex scenes are more metaphorical allusions, while they're both depicting pretty close graphic sex scenes. And I think I liked how Local Heavens wrote sex scenes more than the Everlasting. That's just a personal gripe for me. I just felt like the humor and the sex scenes didn't fit well with the tone and themes of the story. So they could have sex scenes, but just written slightly differently. I unfortunately also, it felt, I don't know, I kind of wanted this to be queer. And the straight heterosexual romance is also is good. It works, but I just didn't really connect with the story because it felt not overused, but definitely like I would have connected this more if it was a more quote unquote transgressive queer story. But overall, it was just a beautifully written story, and I absolutely adored all the characters. Owen, despite my reservations for heterosexuals, Owen is an amazing protagonist. Sorry, I didn't really care for the antagonist. I even forget her name, Vivian, something like that. I didn't care for her. She was not scary. She wasn't imposing. She just felt sort of annoying at times, and it was like, I feel like the issue could have been solved slightly better or faster regarding her, because like I didn't get anything from her, but I really liked how it ended as well. The ending was just amazing. The next book I read is also a book that I pre-ordered, and it's also a indie book. I want to read more indie books. I don't know if I'm gonna make a goal out of it, but I'm gonna try to read more indie books. Specifically, I got this book because this is an, if not Orlando-based, a Florida-based author. And it's Intuition by K.T. Carlisle. This book came out on October 31st. And so it's about this young woman who is about to go on a plane to go to her cousin's funeral, but she is stopped by this woman who tells her that she has a premonition that the plane's going to crash. And when she gets off the plane, the plane does crash, and so she turns to the woman. Is like the woman tells her that she's in danger and has to figure out how to survive. And this woman is psychic. And so I think that this is so. I'm not sure exactly how this book wants to be. It is a 4 out of 5. It's really good. I think the last 100 pages of this save the story. It's very tight thriller, very scary towards the last 100 pages. It is a thriller from the get go. Just the description by itself, I did not expect nor kind of want the main character and the woman who saves her life uh, to interact more than just let's try to save your life. They do end up falling in love with each other and having a romantic sexual relationship, which I'm not against. So I love lesbians. It just moved too fast for me, and I was sort of put off by how fast these two characters ended up having sex with each other. And I feel like there could have been more space from the beginning of the story to like the 100 pages where there's a twist and then things happen. I feel there should have been more space where that relationship could have grown. I think that having more examples of the psychicness and more examples of danger, them bonding through trauma would have worked well. But without going into spoilers, that may have undone some twists, things that we learn later in the story. But either way, I do feel like the romance moved a bit too quickly for my liking. But then it got to the point where it was good, and then it got better because of the last 100 pages. And so I really enjoyed reading. It was a quick read too. I read it in one day, and it was a really great thriller. And shout out to Katie Carlisle, local Florida author, I believe. I thought she was in Orlando, but I can't prove that. But she's in Florida, I know. The next book that I read is not. We're moving away from the pre-orders. This is a book that I wanted to read before Christmas so that I could give it to my sister. It is Among the Hidden by Margaret Peterson Haddix. Margaret Peterson Haddix is a very popular young children's story book writer, author. And Among the Hidden is the first of the Shadow Children series. Hold on a second. Which I read when I was in elementary school, and I wanted to reread it. Somehow, I don't remember why. I had asked, and my parents had bought me the entire box set for the series. It's right here. And I don't remember anything about it. And I've had this box set for like years. And so I wanted to reread it. And, I know that these types of stories are for younger children, and I'm an adult. So I wanted to at least revisit it, reread it, and then give it to my sister to see if she maybe wants to continue reading it. And honestly, if she doesn't like it, I'm more than welcome to keep, because it was pretty good. It's a short story. It's not a short story, but it's a pretty quick read, at least. It's a 4 out of 5. It's a complex dystopia. It's about the shadow children in this futuristic American futuristic American future. Okay. In this dystopian American future, the government has outlawed having 3 children. Having more than 2 children. Any third children has to be killed, I believe. And the main story follows Luke, who is a secret third child, a shadow child, living in his parents' farm, when all of a sudden there is urbanization around him and a neighborhood crops up around his home, and he has to hide further in the house, and he cannot leave, and is dealing with this sort of like oppression of these characters. Luke is a great protagonist, a child protagonist. He's a pretty blank character, so it's a really good character for readers to latch onto, and I know that he will have more character growth as the story continues. And it deals with issues of like overpopulation and food loss. He meets another shadow child, Jen, and she gives him a bunch of propaganda and scholarly articles, anti-propaganda. And so it presents two different narratives of what has happened to the future. And then at the very end, it reveals that both of those are lying and that things are a little bit more complex. But overall, it's all about power and control. And I think this is a great story to introduce such aspects as propaganda and lying to the public and how to deconstruct these types of narratives within oneself so that you can do good stuff in your community and in your life. And so, yeah, it was. I liked it. It was a complex dystopia that really pushes your understanding of history and politics. And so, I think it's a really important story for children to read, which is why I'll be giving it off to my sister to see. Maybe she wants to read the entire series. It's what, 5, 6, 7 books total. I have the second book up over in the secret corner over there where my books to read are. But yeah, I think it was a 4 out of 5. I was thoroughly entertained compared to other young children's books that I've read. Oh no! Fuck! I'm here now. That was really sad. So last year for Christmas, my uncle, who lived in Colombia, moved back to the United States. On Thanksgiving, he met my boyfriend for the first time, also me coming out for the first time. And for Christmas, my uncle and his wife bought us matching robot snow globes. And I thought that was a really nice gift, and so I had them displayed, but one of them fell and broke. You saw that. So very sad. So I'm going to be over on this area while I cleaned it up, let it dry, and then vacuum later. Anyways, the next book that I read in the month of December is Clockwork Prince, Infernal Devices number 2. And this was a 4.5 out of 5 for me. Clare, whatever. 4.5 out of 5 for me. I really enjoyed the second outing of this trilogy. Definitely had the issue of it being like a middle story. It's in the middle between the first and it's the second book, so it has like that sort of a slowdown of a plot. But I think that it has some amazing pacing. Like compared to the first book, there is less big set pieces happening, but more intimate moments. And I think that's where this writing of Cassandra Clare shines. And I was really happy with the character interactions, character growths, character arcs that kept pushing and growing within this book that I feel like built on the first book's threads, and are kept growing into and setting it up for the finale of the third book, which I'm really excited for. And I think that this is one of the best love triangles ever written, because most of the time, any sort of love triangle, like Katniss, Peeta, Gale, who else is it? Bella, Jacob, and Edward. At some point, Rachel, Annabeth, and Percy. There's this idea of that the characters' relationships, you can either choose one or the other, and obviously choosing one over the other will affect the other. And so, what is the quote-unquote right choice? Here, the way that it's set up and written, there's only one good choice that ends up, there's 2 choices, but there's only one good choice. Because this love triangle is being set up without the knowledge of 2 parties, Jem and Will. And Tessa is having this interaction between the both of them. And in the end, because Will is pushing her away, because Jem is courting her, she ends up getting with Jem. And then Will finally realizes that he realizes this stuff. I'm not going to spoil it, but he realizes stuff, and he actually wants to be with Tessa. But because Tessa's already been with Jem, Will doesn't want to hurt Jem because Will and Jem are also not in a relationship. They're parabat. They're like closer than brothers. And so the love triangle is love triangle in structure, but in format, it is just the right decision is to not be in a relationship with Will at this point in time because it will hurt Tessa to hurt Jem. It'll hurt Will to hurt Jem. It'll hurt Jem to hurt Will and Tessa. And so it was the creation of this love triangle is so precarious. It's so well written. I absolutely adored reading that. And it sets up for the last book. And if the third book is really good, if Clockwork Princess shows out, I will be buying copies of the trilogy because it's just amazing. And it's not. I don't want to say that I don't want to read any more Cassandra Clare stories, Shadowhunter stories, because I know that it tends to be too YA for me. But at least the setting here, the setting of the Victorian London, helps the YA feel less present. It feels like a historical novel in a way, a classic novel. And so, yeah, I've been really happy with this reread of this series. And I continue saying that Jem is the best character. This is what most of the fandom does not think this is what Jem looks like. I tend to agree. But then some pictures of some fan art I've seen of Jem, I'm like, that's not an Asian man. Make him more Asian, but whatever. Anyways, hopefully by the end of the month, I don't know. I'm gonna ask to get the snow globe replaced. It's so sad. Hey, David in the future, how you feeling? Hi, past David. I know it sucks. Unfortunately, I could not get it replaced. I have his brother here. I need my boyfriend to sand down and fix the glass shards. I'll just have both of them. One has no helmet. They have mutated so they can survive in space. So I think it sucks, but it's alright. It's not fine, but it's okay. Anyways, continuing on, the next book that I read in the month of December was The Arrival by K.A. Applegate, which is Animorphs number 38. POV is of Axe, the Andalite in their team. All the Animorphs encounter a group of Andalites who come down to Earth thinking that it's finally time for them to be saved by the Andalites, but unfortunately it is just a rogue group, sort of like a Suicide Squad, tasked to assassinate the Visitor 3, which is the main antagonist. And I give a 4 out of 5 for this one. I will say it took a bit to get through this because I'm listening through the Audiomorphs podcast, and so I wasn't able to take in the entire thing collectively. I had to do it in parts, and so that sort of didn't really help with how I consume these stories. But overall, it was a great espionage story, and there was also great moments of sort of coming of age, young adult content as well, because Axe encounters a young woman, Andalite, who is his age, and they have a little like chemistry there, but overall it's not like the main thing. And I really liked how it moved. I really liked the plot, and Axe had some character growth and coming of age stuff like I mentioned, so that was really fun to see from him as a teenager. He's a teenage alien in the United States. The next book that I read was Someone Named Eva by Joan M. Wolfe, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This is a reread from, I think, 2009 or 2008. This is along the same lines of other books that I read because they were Sunshine State books. And so this one, it's very, what's the term? Heavy in terms of it's about someone named Eva. Her real name is Milada. She lives in an Eastern European country during World War II. She's separated from her parents and taken to a school where she learns how to be a proper German citizen by the Nazis. And then I don't know if she's sold or like she's bought by a family to be a daughter of theirs, and they change her name to Eva. And so it's a very important story to read because it's covering something that actually happened in World War II, where Nazis stole children from Jewish families, from non-German families, and anyone who displayed blonde hair and blue eyes was deemed worthy enough to live, and that was a traumatic thing for Milada. And she's a great main character. This is a historical fiction, but it's of things that happened in real life. At the very end of the book, the author Joan Wolfe has a author's note about how much research she did and how she met various different people, survivors of the Holocaust, who inspired this story and this character. And it was really surprising to meet someone after she had created Milada, after she had plotted out her story. She met someone who had something very, very similar happen to her, very similar to what happened to Milada specifically. And so this is a very hard book to talk about in terms of it's such a heavy content that you kind of just don't want to critique it because of it. I will say that there was some lack of closure, but that is common in messy, quote unquote, messy, bad of history. You know, there's no closure in human evils. And so there was no closure in this story. And as a book, piece of fiction of itself, it was lacking that closure. And while yes, that's so true about real life, this book kind of wanted that closure, but you can't really critique it because it's trying to convey a story from the past. And so I think it's a very important book to read. I have given it to my sister to see so she can read it, so she can have the same books that I read when I was younger for her when she's young. And so, yeah, this was a difficult one to even talk about because of how intense everything is. The next book that I read in the month of December is What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher. This is the sequel book, the second book to the Sworn Soldier series, which I read the first book, What Moods the Dead, in October, late October. And I gave this one a 4 out of 5. For me, I unfortunately did not connect as much to this book as I did with the first book. I really, really enjoyed the first book and sort of like retelling aspect and other parts of the horror. This had really great moments of horror as well. It's about Easton, who returns to their like it's a hunting lodge that they own, passed down from their father, and they're trying to like fix it up for because they want to invite a guest, which is one of the characters that they met in the first book, Mrs. Potter, who I found out later is a fictional character, but it is based on Beatrice Potter. She mentions in the first book that she has a niece who really likes mushrooms and fungi, and that's supposed to be Beatrice Potter, and so Miss Potter is her granddaughter, I think it was, and so she's a fictional character that likes talking about mushrooms and fungi and stuff like that. Easton's inviting her over to her to the hunting lodge, but discovers that the hunting lodge is haunted by a specific haunting, and I'm not going to spoil what it is. However, I didn't really connect with the story because I wasn't familiar with the haunting aspect. The moments of the type of horror here was enjoyable, but it was unfamiliar, and so it was hard for me to like connect with it. But I really did enjoy how much focus was placed on Easton and their trauma from surviving I think it was the Great War, I think at this point. Or in World War II. What time is it? What time period? I believe it was the Great War. I'm not fully sure about that. A war that they survived, and they have PTSD from that, and so they're trying to recover from that. And the things that they learned from the war are used in very interesting ways in this book, and so I was really happy with that. I have the third book ready to read sometime, probably in February. I'll read it. Not fully sure. And this book was just a little bit disappointing because I didn't like it as much as I liked the first book. But I'm looking forward to the third book to see how this series wraps up. I don't know if it's going to go past a trilogy, but the third book just came out like a few months ago. And so I'm just gonna look forward to that. It's also quick reads anyway, so I can bust that out pretty quickly, depending on what's happening within at work. But yeah, it was a pretty good horror book that I read. The next book that I read in the month of December took me a bit longer than I expected to, which is Letters from an Imaginary Kingdom by Theodora Goss. I talked about this book a while ago because I had pre-ordered this book. Right, I forgot to say. This is the third book of the books that I pre-ordered, so I also looked it up. Local Heavens came out early October, like the 14th, I think it was. And then Everlasting came out on the 28th, and then Intuition came out on the 31st. This is the fourth book that I had pre-ordered. This came out on the 11th of November. And it's a short story collection of all the short stories, a lot of short stories that Theodora Goss has written. I've read two of them already in other anthologies. I read Cimerium and Pelargonia, and I knew that they were going to be in here because both of the stories deal with imaginary anthropology in terms of a group of characters, group of people just create a fictional country, and then it comes to life with a full, rich history, and they have to deal with the repercussions of a random country just appearing all of a sudden. And so I loved those short stories so much, and so I knew that they were going to be in this collection, which is why I pre-ordered it. I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 for me. So it has Cimerian, it has Pelargonia, and I'm going to talk about the top 5 stories in this book, because these are the ones I really enjoyed. We have Letters to Merlin, which is about a letter from Guinevere to Merlin, but they are actually sci-fi vessels for moving time. And Guinevere is actually this woman who is hired to make sure that, not Lancelot, Arthur? Making sure that King Arthur dies when he's supposed to make sure that history moves as it's supposed to. And she's writing to Merlin, be like, hey, do you also feel the pain that I do when the love of my life is betrayed by me? And it's also, I kind of want this to be a larger story because it sounds absolutely beautiful. And then we have Estella Saves the Village, which is about Estella, who is this young, capricious girl in a village who likes investigating mysteries, and she starts seeing weird spots, and she turns to her local mystery solver to try to solve why these spots are happening. And that local mystery solver? Sherlock Holmes. I also have included Pelargonia, a letter to the Journal of Imaginary Anthropology, which is about a bunch of high school kids who make Pelargonia, and their father gets involved in political conflict there. We have the title story, Letters from an Imaginary Country, which is the third story that is connected to this imaginary anthropology concept, which is different letters and emails to Theodora Goss herself about her work with this fictional country's folklore that quickly becomes apparent that it's real, and the folklore is also very real as well. I really enjoyed the folklore and the way that the story was told in slantwise, in terms of there isn't really a story told, but it's heavily implied, and I really like that. And finally, The Secret Diary of Mina Harker, which is about a historian who discovers a diary of Mina Harker and pieces together the story of how Mina Harker, who is one of the main characters in Bram Stoker's Dracula, who wrote a real life manuscript about the dealings with Dracula, and the diary contradicts the things that Mina had wrote herself. And so the historian is trying to figure out why these two different pieces of media contradict each other, written by the same person, Mina Harker. Plot twist, Mina Harker, or spoilers, that's it. Spoilers, Mina Harker is a vampire. I gave this a 4.5 because all the stories were just absolutely amazing. There weren't any less than because I rate them out of 10 short stories. I rate out of 10. No stories got less than a 6, and most of them between 7 to 8 out of 10. And I wanted more from this imaginary anthropology concept, and I only got this third new one, which is letters itself, and I wanted more from that, and so in that way I was slightly disappointed with this book. However, it's still, the other stories around it are good enough, amazing enough, that I can enjoy it. And also, it's a great fantasy collection that honors fiction, honors just beautiful fiction, because all these other stories relate to fiction that Theodora Goss has read. Almost all of these stories are love letters to fiction that the author had read before, and I think that they're all beautiful, and it's old fiction as well. And so they're all in conversation with each other about this fiction and what it means to the people who read them. And so I was really happy with that. And the very, very last book that I read this month and this year was the Murderbot Diaries, Volume 3, which encompasses Fugitive Telemetry and System Collapse. This is the last collection omnibus of the Murderbot Diaries that I started reading this series, and it's a great conclusion. Fugitive Telemetry, I gave a 4 out of 5, and System Collapse, 4.5 out of 5. For Fugitive Telemetry, Murderbot is trying to solve a mystery within the preservation station and dealing with the limitations of people who don't trust that it is out for, good, and the limitations of technology and stuff like that as well. And then System Collapse comes right off of Network Effect, which is one of my favorites of the entire Murderbot series, dealing with this new colony that they have discovered that has also alien tech that is dangerous, and then having a more like a territory fight between preservation, the a university that works to combat against corporate power, corporate greed, and corporate control, and then a corporation in and of itself that is vying for control. And so I was really happy with how the story went. However, I wanted a good an ending. I'm sure that there's going to be more books published, more novellas published, but I don't know. I have not heard anything about it. If so, this ending was kind of not that amazing, but not horrible. It was a good ending, and it has the feeling that there could be more, but this is a good place to stop. Which I'm fine about, I guess. I just wanted more answers for Murderbot's mysterious past, but I think it's not necessary. I think it's a little cliche as well. The characters are always fun. The plot went elsewhere, but it was just a good development because they discover that there's a third civilization on this new planet that they have to go into, but also it's in a dead zone of communication, so they have to go in blind and without being able to communicate with most of their group. I know that I wanted more stuff with the alien things, such as what we got in Network Effect, but there wasn't more of that. But that's fine because I got enough of that in Network Effect, which is why it's my favorite book of this series. Overall, the conflicts in this in System Collapse, I always have to check the name. The conflicts in System Collapse are good enough and enticing enough because Murderbot at times could feel super powerful and unstoppable, but there still happens to be challenges and conflicts that they cannot just solve with killing people, or on the other side, trying not to kill people to solve the answer. to solve the problem. And so really liked it, and overall it was just an amazing sci-fi series. And one of the, I think, yeah, it was the best sci-fi series that I read this year. I put out a full video of my best of 2025 books that I read. Go check that out if you so desire. And yeah, that was the last of my books. So overall, this month was pretty good. It's just got really busy at work as well, and so it's been sort of hard to finish books and read books, and so I feel like I've read less than usual. But 7 physical books that I have right now, and then I had Animorphs, Someone Named Diva, and then Infernal Devices 2. I think I'm missing a 4th one, I think. That past David talked about. But I think this was a pretty fine month of reading, especially because I got to read Local Heavens, which was just amazing. And yeah, I'm looking forward to what I'm going to be reading for the next year, next few months as well. And hopefully I will have a lot more time to read when it slows down a bit more at work. Because it's definitely really hard to be able to read this book. The starting from like at the when I read Intuition, it was in one day, and then I read I forget which one I read before or after that, whatever. That day, it got busy at work, and so trying to read these books and the other books that I don't have physically was so hard because it was so busy. But busy is good. Busy is good. So we'll see what happens in January, and I will see you soon. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share with your friends. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to be passionate, and I'll see you later.